Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, your global feel good radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, our guest today is one of my favorite guests, Penney Peirce. Like me, Penny and I both have written 10 books at the moment. And you can find out more about Penney Peirce and her wonderful work at pennypeirce.com. Penny Peirce is an intuitive consultant. She's the author of The Intuitive Way, Frequency, and her most recent book that you need to read is Transparency. Welcome, Penny Peirce.
It's good to be back.
So, what we're going to be talking about today is how to thrive in chaos. So, this has been a very unusual time for most of us living. We've had all kinds of just massive changes. And what I notice as a medical intuitive healer, I'll talk to somebody, a client in Atlanta, I'll talk to a client in Sydney, Australia, I'll talk to a client in London, England, I'll talk to somebody in Toronto. We're all going through the same thing. We're living on this planet and we're going through massive changes. So, Penny Peirce, you're an energy expert, among other things. From an energetic perspective, what exactly is chaos?
Boy, I wish I were a physicist. Um, um, well, to me, it has a lot to do with the creation cycle, where things, come into form, drop down in frequency, and come into time and space in physical form, and we go through that process of materializing something, and then after it's finished, we take attention out of it, and it starts to disintegrate and go back into the unified field, or that great field of energy. And I think as that process of disintegration happens and reabsorption happens, that may be what we call chaos. Because I do think that there is an order in the universe and that chaos is part of that orderly cycle, so, and maybe it's the same right before something comes into form too. We have that idea of the caterpillar and the butterfly, and as the caterpillar is in the cocoon, what happens is it actually melts kind of, and all the particles disassemble and they float around, and it's all melted down, and then it recombines somehow through some inner energy blueprint or something into the butterfly. But it doesn't just shift overnight. It has to go through this process of, slight dematerialization to have rematerialization and transformation.
Now,
So
Penny Peirce, you and I have both at this point authored 10 books. And I know for myself, I can only write in depth about a subject if I understand it to a great degree. And by now, I have 27 years full-time experience in natural healing. I've studied a lot of different modalities. And in recent years, one of the things that I, believe it or not, that I went to study was actually physics.
okay, yeah.
I wanted to have a deeper scientific understanding of energy work and energy healing. And I don't understand it well enough to write a book about it. I wish I did. But at any rate, for our audience, this is my understanding, as limited as it is, because I'm not a physicist or a scientist. I'm a medical intuitive healer. But there was a man named Ilya Prigogine, and Ilya Prigogine won the Nobel Prize for chaos theory. So this is my understanding, as limited as it is, that in order to reorganize at a higher level, you have to go into chaos. So if you think about systems, whether it's the government or the way we relate or our health, there's a concept called homeostasis, which is kind of da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. If I could make a sound, it's like da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Like we're just kind of going along and drilling along and everything's kind of the same. And then something happens that changes everything and sends us into chaos. And when we go into chaos, it can, from a personal perspective, it can be quite alarming. So you go to a medical doctor, he gives you an alarming diagnosis, you lose your job. There's this global, pandemic, there's a global recession, and there's forces really larger than you that are going through massive changes. But it's helpful to understand this chaos theory because it's literally how things reorganize. And one of the things that we know from physics is that basically an object stays at rest unless acted on by a force greater than or equal to itself. And right now we're all experiencing these global forces of change. And
Right.
So, Penney Peirce, from your perspective, how does chaos affect the average human being?
I think you said it really well, that the things that we rely on for security, and that once we have it, we kind of take it for granted. And of course, we don't want change. That's the left brain. The left brain loves, defining something and having it stay that way. And then it kind of becomes the guardian of your safety and doesn't want you to do anything new, So, but we get stuck in those definitions of, what's real. And so those things at this point, because we're having a global acceleration of energy, things are being stirred up. We're having to personally go through a sequence of jumps to deal with the waves of energy that are running through the earth, and our bodies. Okay, so as the energy comes through, we get disoriented and disrupted and out of our comfort zone, and we think something's wrong. And if you resist it, it gets worse. If you embrace it and let yourself move the energy through you, of course, you adjust to that new level, and now you're at a higher frequency. But this is an ongoing process right now. Then people are like, when is it going to end? No, it just keeps on coming, So that adjustment is that chaos phase, and we are learning that we are not just physical. Most of the things we have defined for our security are just physical things. We have our salary, we have our job, we have our groceries, we have our, house and everything that, makes a human body feel secure. And those things are shifting right now. And it means that we also have to shift more through our emotional and mental realm, into creativity, to start innovating and looking at, well, let's adapt and see what wants to happen next. And let's start creating new things, because that's the reorganization, right, Catherine? It's like the innovation phase has to start up. It's not going to return to just the way it was before. It's going to be that and more. And I always think, when we have a jump like that, the old stuff gets integrated into the new frequency level. I think of it as like the old dinosaur's brain now becomes our reptile brain, which is just 1/3 of our whole triune brain system, but it's still there. It has a function, but it's not the only function. So anyway, that's what I see happening today, really, is that we're being shaken up so that we can see a higher reality and start to shift into it and see what it's really like.
When I think of a visual image of chaos, what I think of, and this is sort of funny, is if you look at the average bedroom of the average teenager, it looks like a bomb has exploded, right? It's just like stuff is everywhere. But then it's like, okay, why is it so chaotic? Well, they're reorganizing at a higher level. About a year and a half ago, I did another round of feng shui on my house, and I worked with Catherine Graham, who's a feng shui genius as far as I'm concerned. And I remember it took about 2 months. And my house is 3 stories, and the second floor of the house was just in total chaos. And I was very, very uncomfortable, mess everywhere, and new stuff coming in, old stuff coming out, painting and so on. And I remember she said to me, she said, "You'll hate me now, but you'll love it when it's over." And that was exactly right. I was very uncomfortable while everything was getting moved around. But then when it found a new order, I felt much more comfortable.
Right. Right. Yeah. I
So,
think, a big thing is that we need to know that there is an actual process underway. And most people don't know that there is something actually happening, that it has this kind of sanity to it. It has stages to it. And, what I've tried to do in my books is kind of create roadmaps of like, how does this thing work? And what comes next? And what's the whole overview of it all? So that people don't have to freak out and think the world is ending or some terrible thing. A lot part of it, this is about transformation too, and chaos is part of that as we start to disengage and pull attention out of the old things, which hopefully are getting, I think, let me say it better, if our energy goes up and we start to function at a higher frequency level, we look back at the old systems like politics, like the way everything used to work, hierarchical systems in business and so forth. We're looking at that and saying, that's old, that's antiquated. It's so, it doesn't work. It's too slow. It makes problems of inequality or whatever it is, and so we start to get bored with that. Like, it's not meeting our needs. We want things that are much more instantaneous and real and authentic right now. And so energy gets pulled out of the old, but then you're in this limbo state. I call it liminal space, or the bridge time, between these two realities. We need a way to get through this bridge time, which is where I think we are now with, pandemic and political change and so forth, all happening. Steady, steady, steady as she goes. I always liken it to a boat going through the locks, like in the Panama Canal. You go in one side and then it fills up with water. You go to the next level, finally you get out to the other level. But it's not an overnight instantaneous process,
So, what are your suggestions about how the average person can stay sane, healthy during this period of tremendous transformation? Because if you think about it, our health is being challenged,
right.
Our finances are being challenged,
right.
How our children are educated is
That's
being
right.
challenged.
Yep.
Where we work is being challenged.
What we do, even.
We do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I think the great gift of the pandemic and just this time is that we're being asked to not distract ourselves with so many outside things, that we can come inside ourselves, get quiet, stop the internal dialogue for a minute or two, and feel into who we are, what we love, what we want to do. Is everything on track for ourselves? Do we feel on purpose spiritually, not just doing what we should do? That there's deeper questions arising. And there's also this is a period where we can clear things that are in the way of higher consciousness, where you can look at something that you never wanted to look at before and see, oh gosh, I've been afraid of that for all my life, and it's just really nothing. I can clear it now and understand it. And the more we do that kind of inner work, the clearer and clearer we get. And then our life starts to shift over into a way of functioning that's much more effortless and fluid, where we have synchronicity, we have more good luck, we have, opportunities and resources that can start to drop in. And we get our own answers to what we want to do and then how to do it. So I think a lot of people are going to come out of this not wanting to go back into the corporate world, for instance, but they'll probably want to start their own businesses, stay independent, and join up with other people who are on their wavelength to do, projects or whatever it would be. So I think there will be a new system of working and collaborating and feeling good about yourself that comes out of this. But to stay stable through this bridge time, you have to be able to go into what I call your home frequency, which simply is that state of being. It's kind of like the soul in the body. It's like a little child, just naturally joyful and happy and unself-conscious, where you are just overflowing with your own inner truth and joy and natural creativity and enjoyment of things, appreciation and so forth. And everybody feels it maybe a little differently, but you can get to that by being quiet and then imagining, what does it feel like when I look in a baby's eyes, or play with a puppy, or, do something that I really love to do and lose track of time, for instance. But that state is your own true inner vibration. It's not where you're out in the world matching everybody else's vibrations and not knowing who you are, because you're just like, going in from one thing to the next. You stop and you come inside and you breathe and you reestablish, oh, this is the way I like to feel. And it's a preferred state. That's another word for it, where you choose the way you love to feel. And then you kind of realize, hey, nobody can knock me out of this unless I let them. I don't have to feel bad about anything unless somebody tries to make me. And then I don't have to stray from this. So part of the gift of this time, I think, is stabilizing into that personal frequency, which is so calm and lovely and wonderful. And then you have a kind of perspective on things that's a bit higher. It's not fear-based, and you get guidance about what to do next. But of course, we constantly slip out of the alignment because we're matching other people who are in fear, or we watch the news and it's all crazy. And then you have to remember, oops, there I go again. I got off center. Let me breathe and come back and center again and calm down. And that state, to me, it's like a state, I call it peaceful excitedness. It has both factors in it, like natural enthusiasm, but it's not high, crazy, out of control energy. It's calm, So that's the best way I know, to do it.
So we're always having a choice whether we go into energetic resonance with the chaos.
Yes.
With the fear, with the anger, with the upset, or if we're going to stay in our own home frequency. One of the things that I talk about is there's 3 ways to be happy in life. The first way is physical pleasure, movement, sex, eating. Second way to be happy is what I call soul satisfaction. So what soul satisfying to one person might be watching football with their buddies drinking beer. And for someone else, it could be walking in nature. But the most foolproof way to be happy is with life meaning. And Gandhi talked about this. There's an apocryphal story where a gentleman kept following Gandhi around, trying to understand his mindset. And what's the meaning of life? And it's like your life is the meaning. But when we find ways, the simplest way I can think about it is all thinking. In other words, when we go into fear, we're going into me thinking. What about me? How's it going to affect me and my health and my income and my family? But when you go into all thinking, this is about thinking about the greater good. How can I serve the planet? What can I do to be of service to mankind? And, even if it means being kind to just one person right now, if we can find ways to contribute to this greater good, then you can hold on to a very deep sense of meaning which I think really helps to maintain peace during this time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think sometimes when you just focus on your own self and then you have this unconscious idea that here's me and here's the outside world. And it's a huge thing. It's so big and it doesn't love me, and it's dangerous and I have to protect myself from it and maintain my own reality. And it's all up to me. And you get into this feeling of separation at that point. That individuality is fine, but it also can cause isolation consciousness. So what we want is like to feel like an individual, but keep expanding our sense of self through the field, like you have an aura, and that goes out and out and out and out and out and out and out. And it keeps including more and more and more of life. So everything's part of you. And it's not out there being an enemy of you that can be oppositional to you. So when you go too much into ego thinking of that separated self, you end up in separatist thinking, which causes fear instantly. You go into survival.
Versus
the more you connect, like you're saying, then the more you relax and the heart opens, and now you're living in the heart, really, that your whole field becomes that.
Right. Oneness. Absolutely. Experiencing oneness for sure.
That's
now,
right.
Penney Peirce, how important do you think it is to stay grounded during times of chaos?
It's important to stay grounded all the time, and what you mean by that is, first of all, focus into your body, that we are creating a body. I don't think, it's like the soul has a body. The body doesn't have a soul. We are the crystallization of a lot of layers of that higher self, which goes out to the soul and goes out then to soul group, even as a level of self at a higher level. But it drops in frequency down, 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 and we are the end result. So, part of it is keeping the identity that the soul is in the body. I'm here. I am the soul. I'm running this show and I know how to do things somewhere in me, even if my mind can't remember it or do it consciously. There's something in all of us that is coming from that highest level of harmony and beauty and perfect functioning and perfect fit and supply. And if you just kind of stay in that, remember that, I think that it does something. It changes your reality into one that actually functions that way. You hold yourself that way. So that to me is a big piece of grounding. It's centering, actually, and right identification. And then remember, the body needs certain things. It wants to feel safe. And it likes being connected to the earth and other physical things, right? So we have different methods of, visualizing grounding into the center of the earth and all those things. But loving the physical world that you're in every day, all the objects, I always look at them and say they're alive. They have particles inside, and those particles, those molecules are a physical version of a light particle. So inside of every object is energy and consciousness. Everything's alive. Everything has a frequency. It's all vibrating in the field, sharing the field, coming out of the field, going back into the field. We're all super connected. So you can have a mindfulness practice, where you love all the things in the physical world, but feel into them to go into their inner life, and then feel your inner life in them all, and that is a communion, conscious communion practice that I think is really important.
Great suggestions. If anyone has ever visited my website, catherinecarrigan.com, you know that I'm obsessed with beauty. And obsessed is the right word. I raise orchids. At the moment, I'm raising amaryllis to give to people. Because one way to appreciate being in the now and appreciating life itself is to simply watch things grow.
That's right. Yeah.
it's just so wonderful. Albert Einstein said the most important question is whether or not you consider the universe to be a friendly place.
That's right.
And when people come to CatherineCarrigan.com, I want them to see the world that I see, which is a world of beauty. And we live in this beautiful world, and it's here to support us, even during these times of tremendous transformation. Now, Penney Peirce, how important is it, do you think, to maintain a connection to the divine during chaos?
Well, it's pretty much what I was saying before. That conscious communion practice is the maintaining of a connection to the divine, because when you look into everything, you find an energetic presence that's there. And that presence to me is the unified consciousness of all things, and it when you go really into it, it all feels the same. It's all based on love, which is kind of a mutual inclusiveness of all things and mutual evolution, and everything's helping everything, and there's plenty to go around, and if you need it, somebody has it, and or it's going to come to you in some way. And that's the friendly universe in a way, where you just practice perceiving this. You practice holding this idea in yourself that things want me to succeed and win so that I can give back more, because they need what I've got and I need what they've got. And it's this constant fluid, it's the flow, so when you focus on things like that and how everything is working actually perfectly, that gets you in touch with the divine. And I think also there is a kind of a trust in the flow that's important, where you understand that no matter what arises in your reality, it could be some shameful thing you did that you thought you were over, and then you did this like revengeful thing or whatever. Sometimes these things pop out of us in order to be seen. So, or we're jealous, or we fall into these kind of fear-based emotions. That's an important thing that arises, as is the good stuff, the lucky stuff. The contracted kinds of experiences are so important to engage with kindly and in a neutral way, to see, why did that come up? What was going on in my mind that I was threatened enough to have that feeling as this old human survival thing come up in me? And that is not who I am, and so you clear yourself. So everything that comes up in your consciousness, that especially what you notice, is so important, I think, because noticing is a key thing. We all notice different things during the day, and that helps us make our reality.
One of the things I'm always explaining to my clients is that you are already a VIP. What do I mean by that? You are a vibrational interference pattern. So for example, Penny and I are both nice people, whatever the word nice means, but we have different energy, right? And you have an energy imprint, and you are a vibrational interference pattern that is unique to you. Your energy is as unique as your thumbprint. And when you understand that you're this specific energy, the world needs you. The world needs your energy. The world needs your frequency. If you're alive right now, there's some greater purpose for that. Even if you've lost touch with what that is. So the world needs your frequency. The world needs your energy. And I always joke, if I slap you across the face, not that I never do that, well, you must need to be slapped across the face. And if you whisper in the ear gently, then you must need that. So however you do whatever you do, the world needs that, and the people around you need that. And when you honor the energy that you are, the honor to the soul that you are, and the energy that you can contribute, then you can begin to perceive what a huge energetic impact you have on everyone around you.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true.
Now,
and then there's no more need for shame and guilt.
Absolutely. I just this weekend I worked with a gentleman who'd recovered from heroin, and he'd gotten off heroin. I'm like, this is huge. And he had a lot of shame about what he'd been through. And I was like, well, think about it. These people are your tribe. Somebody who is struggling with a particular addiction, for example, they may not listen to someone who doesn't understand what it's like to go through that. So, whatever challenges that you're experiencing, whether it's addiction or homelessness, or you've lost your job, or you're suffering from illness, there's something about that particular challenge that is here to inform you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Penney Peirce, how does chaos present us with opportunities for personal growth?
Well, I think the whole part of chaos is for you to allow it to be, and allow, that's the next thing arising in your reality. It's like things are moving around and not being loyal to their old pattern, and they're it's the shakeup. Well, it's kind of like riding on a roller coaster. You got the down thing and you're like, but it's like part of the whole deal, whole cycle. So part of it is letting things be the way they are and not trying to enforce willpower on top of it to try to make things work the way they used to work. But I always, like, engage with things and enjoy them and entertain yourself. Like that, somehow find a way to enjoy this and find it. Like I used to wash the dishes when I was like 8 years old, and I would pretend I was in a TV commercial and go, and now we've done the bottom of the pot, blah, 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 and I would, you have to do that. So anyway, you let the chaos be. And that includes people who are going off the deep end and maybe being mean and snarky, and you're like, God, I hate this. Just let them do their thing. You keep in your home frequency and set a good example. Try as much as you can to not be acting out. And then as the chaos goes all around you, you will be calm like the eye of the hurricane. And in that space, then, when you're quiet and you're not in the left brain's chatter, which the left brain, remember, is always language oriented. If you're talking in your head, you're in your left brain. So go to the middle and get quiet. Just sit there. Silence, beautiful, quiet. Then at a certain critical point, something starts arising out of the silence. And it's not that niggling left brain. It's like a calm idea or a thought of an interesting thing to do. Now, that's your guidance coming, and it'll come from the soul level rather than the old left brain level that is trying to keep you from changing. And so that is the transition, and that is how you get creativity coming in. Partly just allow the stuff to go on, let yourself be shaken up if you need to, but stay calm in the middle of it. Like don't match that frequency like you said before.
And when we stay in our own home frequency, as Penney Peirce describes it, then other people around us have the opportunity to resonate with that piece.
That's right. We're so telepathic and kinesthetic, that we read each other constantly. And if you get around somebody who's setting a good energy example, or consciousness example, you go, what are they doing? What do they know that I don't know? And it's all subliminal sometimes, but then they want that. You can't force somebody to change, but you can be an interesting example of something, and then they kind of catch it. It's their own idea then.
Now, Penney Peirce, how can the average person keep up with the rapidity of change in every area of our life? So it's one thing to go through a change, but right. When there's so much change and it's happening so quickly, how can we keep up?
I think a lot of it has to do with letting go of identifying with your story. Like we have a way that of who we think we are based on our past or our past lives or whatever. I'm great because I was this way, or I'm bad because I was that way. And I'm a woman, I'm blonde, blah, blah, blah. We tell it all the time. We tell it to ourselves and we tell it to everybody else. It locks us into certain definitions, which is again, left brain. So it's not that you have to lose who you are, but you don't have to attach to it. It can be, just one of a zillion stories on the planet, that it's okay. I can talk about it if I want to, but I don't care about it, because in this moment, I'm just a point of view. I'm a certain kind of consciousness that interprets things and projects and receives and gives in a certain way. And that's what I am, but I don't think it has a name, or whatever. So if you can let go of your attachment to possessions, to descriptions and so forth, now then you're much less contracted and defined and stuck. And then when the new waves of energy come through, you just kind of adjust to it more naturally and say, well, I feel different today. I feel like I remember through the COVID thing, I felt like my aura got emptied out kind of. It was really weird, but like nothing around me. I used to feel more cluttered and hot, and now it's all kind of gone and open. And what the new stuff, it doesn't like come in from the outside, it comes up from the inside and comes out. And but it's an odd feeling to describe that. It's a different way of being here, in the world. And those are the kind of changes I think that we go through.
Now, Penney Peirce, you talk about how each of us has a personal frequency, what you call a home base frequency. And this is what I'm talking about, how we're both VIPs. If you're listening, you are a VIP. And so please honor and respect and treasure and take care of the energy that you are. Because the energy that you are is what you contribute to the whole. So how can we maintain a high personal vibration during these times?
Well, it's all about what you pay attention to. If you're thinking of COVID and people who have it or who've died, or the statistics and lack of work, or what am I going to do, and you stay in worry, you're going to keep yourself at a low, very contracted and a very fear-based kind of reality, where your body will be that way, your emotions will be that way, your mind will be that way. Everything resonates to that low frequency. And then you get depressed, or you can't think well, you can't be creative because you can't see anything new. You're just looking at the worst possible scenarios. So a lot of it has to do with keeping your attention in your home frequency, in yourself as a soul, connected to all souls, connected to all ideas, abundance. There's plenty. And so go where the flow is directing you to go right now. Stay in the flow. And that means usually go inside, get clear. And the next phase will come at the exact right moment for you. Some synchronicity, somebody says, oh, I heard about this job over here. It might be part-time, but at least it'd be something. Or you think of something you could do to make money on your own, whatever. But these things pop in, so it's all about keeping your attention on something that is fluid, that is creative, is self-expressive, cooperative, that you receive well from others, whatever you need, and you give what others need. And that's the fluidity piece, really, and that keeps your energy high and in tune with what's going on outside.
Wonderful explanation. And I go back again to CatherineCarrigan.com and all the photographs that I've taken of the world around me. And whether it's my garden or a beautiful flower that I see in my neighbor's yard, or I'm out walking and I see the trees or the sky, And to me, one of the most foolproof ways to find this high frequency is nature, because we do live in this beautiful world. And whether you go to the store and buy yourself some flowers, or you tend to garden, or you go for a walk in your public park and you look up at the sky, even during lockdown, you can look out the window at the beautiful sky around you.
That's right. Yeah, and just nature has its own natural harmony that isn't according to any external rules. You know, if you go toward a building, it's built on rules, you know, and structure that affects your mind. But when you're out, there's this natural order of things.
And one of the things that I notice, as I mentioned, I'm obsessed with taking photographs of beauty. And for example, I'll take photographs of my garden. Well, it astounds me, if you really pay attention to nature, just how much change there actually is. And, you know, I'll take a photograph and I'll think, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful time. And then 2 weeks later, it looks totally different. And we forget that. We think my body's solid, the earth is solid. Well, there's this tremendous change going on all the time.
Right.
Now, Penney Peirce, how can we change our perspective from being a victim of these global changes brought about by the pandemic to thriving during this time of chaos?
That's really the great question. It relates a lot to all the other questions. You know, it's that again, what you pay attention to and how you think the outer world is impacting you for the worse, you know, or it's making you have to give up things that you were attached to, that you thought you related to it as yourself, you know, like you had identity tied up in your car or whatever, you know. But I think that going from victim is when you think everything's against you, you know, and you have no power. Thriving is where you get centered and come into yourself and you start radiating. So instead of like this black hole where everything goes in and goes out into somewhere we don't know, we let the energy come in from the universe and flow out of us. And then just that, even thinking of that change of direction will shift things around in your whole mechanism of your body, mind, spirit, right? And then you'll start getting creative ideas, or maybe you'll want to help somebody. And that help will then draw in the next thing you need. Because when you give, something's already coming in to push that out. There's no gap anywhere. So this whole thing of giving, it doesn't work unless you don't see what's coming in to replenish you, or what other people are giving you, or what you're even getting from the person you just gave to. You know, that you're always receiving. And if you can feel that I'm receiving something all the time, you can't be a victim. It shuts off that mechanism in the mind. And the problem is, a lot of people have been victims a lot in their lives based on their childhood, and they have that as an identity. And it's a way to stay in control, you know, and it's an ego tactic that is tricky, because, you know, it keeps you in that state, because you can be passively aggressive dominant. You can say, I don't have anything, I need you to give it to me. And then you give it to me and I say, but I don't have enough, I need you to give it to me. And you can always re-establish your emptiness and victim identity. And then if you get stuck in that, boy, it's really hard to get out. You have to really shift your attitude around, but realize you can.
Penney Peirce, how can those of us who are intuitive do a better job of seeing into the darkness of the current global situation?
Well, I don't see into the darkness of it, actually. I see into the actual process of evolution that's going on, that causes the chaos, which I don't think of as darkness. I think of it as part of the light working on us, we have to clear our subconscious mind, which is like a layer of I call it contraction more. It's like ideas and belief systems and fear-based beliefs and all stuff that keeps the soul from coming through all the way. It's kind of like a sieve, like an upside down sieve or colander. It's got holes in it. Those are the places where you feel loving and you understand life and you're, in the unity and the love. And that's where the soul gets through. So part of your physical life is made of that light, but part of it is made of that blocked places where the light bounces or can't get through quite yet, until you then let some of that come in and you see where your fears have been. And then you go, oh, okay, I understand it now from my sort of God's eye view. I get it. That's not even a thing. And then it dissolves and now you have more light coming through your colander, and that is the process we're in right now. So I don't see darkness, but I see the emerging of the fear-based emotions and ideas and thoughts and beliefs that we have stuffed over the years into our subconscious mind because we didn't want to look at them and didn't want to feel them. So now they're coming up. All we have to do is engage with it moment by moment. And it's not overwhelming if you do it that way, and understand it, because understanding helps it clear.
One of my favorite quotes by the poet Rumi is, and I'm going to butcher this, but basically it says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
That's right.
And sometimes you look at yourself and your life or the lives of people that you care about, and it's like watching a movie and it's at the crisis point. It's like, oh my gosh, how are they going to get through that? Well, they may be, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that crack occurs because of the shakeups. I call it sometimes a chiropractic adjustment from on high. You get an accident or something and it changes the organization of your energy body. And it actually makes I used to call it a wedge experience. It's like it opens up an opening so that you can get that memory of, oh, wait, it's supposed to work this way and not that way. And that's how often when you're really, really stuck, that's how we get opened up again.
So Penney Peirce, clairvoyant, intuitive consultant, author of 10 books. Any final thoughts for our audience?
Well, I think that what we're going through is actually a very fortunate thing on an inner level. It is helping us, one, have a global consciousness now. It's not just countries separated. Everybody's going through this on the planet. This could not have happened without a pandemic like this today, and without the internet and the media that we have that can make it more interconnected. And it is a gift in terms of us getting into a deeper level of ourselves and clearing a lot of old ideas that are in the way of our waking up. So I choose to see this as an exciting time, that we might feel snagged right now, or like we feel energy wanting to move, but it can't quite yet. And so okay, relax. It's right there. And as soon as the energy starts moving a bit in the higher, I call it an inner energy blueprint of the planet, we will too. Things will give way. There will be opportunities and things will start moving. So just relax a bit, but stay excited, stay happy.
You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, your global feel-good radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Our guest today has been the wonderful Penney Peirce, intuitive consultant, author of 10 books. You can find out more about Penney Peirce at penneypeirce.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.